Imagine waiting your entire life for a single moment. The day your son walks across the stage to receive his diploma. Now, picture being told you don't belong there. That's exactly what happened to a single father. A veteran who had sacrificed nearly everything for his country and his child. He arrived at his son's graduation, dressed in his neatly pressed old uniform, pride swelling in his chest. But before the ceremony could even begin, 2 security guards approached him, whispering words that would cut deeper than any wound he had faced in combat. They told him to leave. But what they didn't know was that this father wasn't alone, and when 6 Navy SEALs walked in to stand beside him, the entire graduation came to a standstill. This is not just a story about a graduation. It's a story about respect, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond between family and those who serve. Stay with me until the end, because what happens next will remind you why honor still matters in this world. Daniel Hayes had worn many titles in his life: soldier, Marine sniper, decorated veteran. But the one that mattered most to him was Dad. Ever since his wife passed away during his last deployment, raising his son, Ethan, had become his mission. Through the sleepless nights, double shifts at the factory, and the quiet tears he shed when no one was watching, Daniel clung to one promise: that he would live to see his boy succeed. Graduation day was the finish line of that promise. Ethan wasn't just any student. He was valedictorian, the kid who worked at the library part-time to help cover household expenses, who gave up parties to study late into the night, and who never once complained about the empty chair at family events when his dad couldn't make it because of work. Daniel had saved for weeks to rent a clean suit, but at the last minute decided against it. Instead, he pulled his old service uniform from the back of the closet. The jacket was a little snug, the medals slightly dulled, but he wore it proudly. To him, it wasn't about appearance. It was about showing Ethan that every sacrifice, every scar, had led to this moment. But as he entered the crowded auditorium, clutching the invitation his son had slipped into his hand the night before, 2 security guards stepped into his path. "Sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave," one of them said, his eyes lingering too long on Daniel's uniform. Daniel frowned. "Leave? My son is graduating today. I have my ticket." The guard shook his head. "Parents were seated earlier. There's no room left. Besides, this is inappropriate attire. We've had complaints." Inappropriate. The word cut deep. The uniform he had bled in, the uniform that held memories of fallen brothers, was now deemed unfit for his son's ceremony. Daniel's voice cracked. "All I want is to see my boy walk that stage." But the guards didn't care. They began to usher him toward the doors. Around him, whispers spread through the crowd. Some avoided eye contact, others looked away, embarrassed for him. For the first time in years, Daniel felt the crushing weight of being invisible, unwanted. What he didn't know was that Ethan had spotted the commotion from the stage. And Ethan wasn't about to let his father, his hero, be humiliated. Backstage, Ethan had made some calls the night before, nervous that something might go wrong. His father's old unit, a group of retired Navy SEALs who still called Daniel brother, had promised to be there if needed. And when Ethan saw his dad being forced out, he knew it was time. The auditorium doors swung open with a force that silenced the murmurs. 6 men in dark suits walked in, their presence impossible to ignore. These weren't just guests. They carried themselves with the unmistakable confidence of warriors. The lead man, a towering figure with a shaved head, strode straight to the guards. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice calm but sharp as a blade. The guards stammered, suddenly unsure. "This man, he doesn't have proper clearance." The SEAL leaned closer. "This man is Daniel Hayes. He carried half of us out of a battlefield when we should have been dead. He's the reason we're standing here breathing. And today, he's here to watch his son graduate. You're not moving him anywhere." The entire room went silent. Slowly, people began to rise from their seats, clapping softly at first, then louder, until the entire auditorium thundered with applause. Ethan's principal, who had been watching from the stage, finally stepped forward, shame coloring his face. "Mr. Hayes, please forgive this mistake. You belong here." In fact, he turned to Ethan, who was moments from giving his speech. "I think we'd all like to hear from your father." Daniel's hands trembled as he walked to the podium. He had faced bullets, fire, and storms, but nothing had ever made his knees shake like this moment. Ethan's proud smile from the front row steadied him. In a halting but heartfelt voice, Daniel spoke not about war or sacrifice, but about love. About how raising Ethan was the hardest, most rewarding mission of his life. About the nights he doubted himself, the days he worked until his hands bled, and the joy of watching his son grow into a man far greater than himself. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. The guards who had tried to remove him now stood with heads bowed. And when Ethan finally walked across that stage, he didn't just receive his diploma. He received it with his father and 6 SEALs standing tall behind him. A living wall of honor. That day, the message was clear. True respect isn't given by titles, uniforms, or authority. It's earned through sacrifice, love, and loyalty. And Daniel Hayes left that ceremony not just as a proud father, but as living proof that no man who serves, and no father who sacrifices, should ever be made to feel invisible. This story reminds us that honor doesn't fade with age, uniforms, or mistakes. It lives on in the way we love, the way we stand for others, and the way we refuse to let dignity be stripped away. If you've ever doubted your worth, remember Daniel Hayes, and know that your sacrifices matter more than the world sometimes admits.